morning, it's Thursday, April 22nd, and we're back using live action videos thanks to a change in our situation. So I hope you'll use this video as many times as you can this week and keep yourself in fencing condition. As always, we'll start with some stretches. So we'll start with an arm stretch. If you're in a low ceiling room like I am, you can pretend you're very tall and are able to touch the ceiling. It isn't that cool. All right, and then roll your arms and shoulders back and forward. And as always, if you're able to do separate opposite directions, do that. It's good for your brain to try to work. And then the other way. Sometimes I do isometrics, which are resistance exercises. You pull with your hands like this and hold it. And then you push together. And you can do this for your neck. Sometimes this sort of pops your spine. Push and resist. And on the other side. And you can even do it back. Push and resist. And a face plant, like you're so exasperated with the way things are. Or when someone says something dumb. So arms behind your back and stretch as much as you can. And I think in the next video we'll need this move because we're going to talk about infighting. And that involves putting your hand behind your head frequently. And roll your neck. Side to side. Take a lunge position and just stretch. Push down your rear hip. Pivot and reverse. And back, a little lower, keeping your shoulders over your hips. As you know, inevitably in fencing, you do lean when you lunge, but if you train yourself or don't let yourself keep yourself upright, you lean too much, you really risk exposure of your back. And it's hard to get back to the on-guard position. And once more, a little lower. And pivot. You put your hand on your quadricep and feel how that muscle works when you do this. A runner stretch where you're down low like you're going to start a race. Put your right shoulder by your right knee if you're right-handed. Front shoulder by front knee. And reverse. Keeping your legs in an A position, just let yourself hang and feel your hamstring stretch in the back of your thighs. And bring your feet closer together and hang and see if you can stretch. How far down can you go? Can you touch your toes? Can you touch the floor? This flexibility, as I've said many times, crucial not just in fencing, but in life in general. The more flexible you are, the better things go. We're going to do an old school exercise I used to do way back, and that's this. Just to engage your core muscles a little bit. It's very old fashioned. I don't think anyone does this anymore. And you can do the stork stretch where you stand on one leg and you pull straight back so your quadricep, the front muscle in your thigh, stretches. It's also good for your balance. And your other leg. I think you will find typically that one leg balances more easily and naturally than the other. And speaking of that, put your arms out. Put your right leg up straight. Hold the balance. Up. Go sideways. And back like an airplane. And reverse legs, other leg up. And to the side. And back. And down. Now we'll do some jumps. Ready? Down, jump, down, jump, down, jump, down, jump. 7, 9, 11, 13, 14, and 15. Good. Now, lift your legs, lift your knees up. Normal position, then in fencing position. Now move back and forth, picking up your legs rapidly. It's very tiring. And relax. Take your glove and your weapon. I should tell you that I'm trying for a 15-minute video for the first part and a 15 or so minute for the second part. But I will interrupt this to check my camera because sometimes it goes off by itself. If you have a dummy or a pillow or a target, something you can practice your thrust against, you should have that in front of you. Simple thrust with explosion. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Remember, when you're thrusting, it's an explosion, and this shoulder remains very loose. All you're really doing is lifting your elbow. And for the basis of this move, you want your hand to end up high. Shoulder height, point down, lower than your hand. With an advance, you want the tip of your foil to hit before your advance finishes. So it's hip foot and back, hip foot and back, hip foot and back. That's 7. And that's 10. Rest. I remind you of what I wrote about in Google Classroom, and that is the definition of an attack, which you all know is an extension of the arm followed by a lunge or a flesh, and how that interpretation has changed. So we are operating on the principle of extending your arm to about 3/4 and then the lunge. Again, your tip should land before your foot. We will modify this shortly. So we're going to do 10 of those. 3/4 extension, kick and lunge. Notice I'm really kicking. I'm going to exaggerate this. Right, this far off the ground, but my toe goes up first. I do not lift it like a horse or like a ballerina, but like a marionette or a modern dancer. As your hand goes, your toe goes. And in slow motion. So, 10 lunges. Extending 1, and accelerate with the lunge. And 2. And 3. Very relaxed fingers. And 4. And 5. And 6. And 7. And 8. And 9. And 10. Rest. Speaking of fingers, reminders. You really operate your weapon with your first 2 fingers and your thumb, with your ring finger for some support and stability. Your pinky is not involved. So, as I've said a bunch of times in the old-fashioned meme or trope or stereotype of British drinking tea, your pinky simply is not involved. The worst thing you can do is grab your weapon like a bird on a perch with claws that are tight. You want relaxation. And towards that end, take your foil, as we did the last time. Extend your arm, nice and relaxed. Point slightly lower than hand. And make a series of disengages with just your fingers. Technically speaking, a disengage goes under the lateral parry of an opponent. Your opponent's peering this way like a windshield wiper, and you are passing underneath. That's if your opponent's in high line. If your opponent's in low line, you simply flip the model over, and you're basically making an inverted U. So your blade will come over this way. When we say disengage, we mostly mean the other kind, but that is technically, in terms of the language, that also is a disengage. I could parry in octave and make a disengage and hit in the lower, lower inside quarter. Extend your arm. Now make the letter O. Again, my arm is fully extended here. You can also do it 3/4. Right now we're extending just to keep practice of the fingers. Change the direction of the circle you're making. A reminder that you are going around a circular parry in this case, and the move that goes around a circular parry is a doublé or a doublement. So now relax for a moment, let your fingers relax. And extend your arm nice and loose and write your name in the air. And while you're at it, conduct the symphony orchestra. Some of you play instruments, I believe. Maybe you know how to conduct. And relax. We know there are 2 categories of attacks: simple, compound. In the category of simple, we have 3, which you know: straight, disengage, coupé. Again, a coupé is basically an elongated, reversed disengage. This is a disengage, the coupé goes over, but of course it's longer. Those are called simple attacks because they consist of one motion. In French, simple means single. Anything beyond that is a compound attack. So you could have a 1-2, that's 2 disengages, a 1-2-3, or any number to infinity, like Buzz Lightyear. You can do a doublé where you start and you make a circle with your point. You can make a doublé disengage where you circle and make a disengage. You can make a disengage or a doublé. Those 2 sort of cousins sometimes operate well against someone. So in this next set of lunges, you're going to make a simple attack. It's going to be advanced lunge, and you're going to advance with 1 feint and the lunge with a disengage. In this case, the feint is here with an advance, 3/4, and the disengage and the lunge are simultaneous. It's not a matter of disengaging and then lunging. They are at the same time like a corkscrew. They go around and forward simultaneously. Advance feint, disengage lunge, recover, retreat. Advance feint, disengage lunge, recover, retreat. Advance feint, disengage lunge. If you have a target and aren't just playing with the air, see if you can hit the same exact point on your target every time. Loose fingers, loose shoulder. Explosion on the lunge. Loose, loose, explode. Loose, loose, explode. Loose, loose, explode. 2 more. Feint, disengage. Feint, disengage. And rest. I'm going to check my camera to see if it's still filming. The next motion we're going to do is a compound attack. We're going to do it 2 different ways. The first feint will be in the advance, and the second feint will be with the lunge as we did before. The difference here is that your first feint is a disengage to the outside, and the lunge is a second disengage. So you go 1-2, and therefore a compound attack. 1, feint here, 2. 1, 2, with the advanced lunge. Advanced feint, disengage. Advanced feint with a disengage, a second disengage. Advanced feint, disengage, second disengage. Advanced feint, disengage, second disengage. I'm going to pause here. You can see me, which you can, presumably. Your first feint is going to be sort of about here. It's a neutral area. It's not really up here so much, but what it does is put you in a place that's hard for me to find. It's hard for me to see you, and I might react in such a way. So you're here, you have kind of a neutral launching pad from which you can go here, or from which you can go here if you need be, or even here. So the classical 1-2 is 1 high line, 2 high line, but more modern is 1 where you're feinting in this gray area, and then launching your second disengage from there. Another 5 or 6. Advanced feint in the gray area, disengages here. Neutral area or neutral zone. The first feint is disengage. One more, feint, disengage. Good. If you can time that in such a way that you have smooth but hesitating motion. I'm here and then I finish. The timing of that goes against the grain of most people's natural sense of how things are going. They expect regularity, so you go slow, fast, and that's what changes it. The second way to do that is to do both disengages in the lunge. So instead of feint, disengage, and then a second disengage with the lunge, we're going to feint straight and then do a 1-2 with our foot in the air at the same time. Feint straight, 1-2. Notice my foot really pops up. I'm exaggerating. You obviously don't want to lunge like this. You want to lunge like that. But for purposes of showing you, I'm exaggerating. Advance straight, 1-2. With me now. Advance straight, 1-2. 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 Two more. Advance straight, 1-2. Really explode. Advance straight, 1-2. Rest. If you haven't picked up your foil in a while, you may feel some musculature right here in your forearm working. It's a very particular set of actions that you don't do in everyday life. I want to reiterate that an attack by extending the arm has right of way, whether it's simple or compound with any number of movements, provided that they are continuously forward threatening the target area. I can do 75 1-2 doublés as long as I'm moving forward, and as long as my opponent, of course, does not find my blade with a parry. We're going to do another set similar to that last one, but we're going to straight feint, doublé, make a circle, and hit. That may feel like a simple attack. Technically, it's not. Advance feint, doublé, recover. Advance feint straight, make a circle. Again, see if you can hit the same spot every time on your target. Make sure your fingers are relaxed. Make sure your shoulders are relaxed. You need to play, make sure you're changing the tempo, the rhythm. Slow, fast. Slow, fast. Two more. Slow, fast. Slow, fast. Rest. We know that a 1-2 works against a very common parry, which is the windshield wiper lateral parry, side to side. Right? Some fencers are trained to do combinations of parries, which is a good thing. They might do a counter 6, which is a circular parry, and a 4. So if they miss your blade here, they might go for it in 4. And of course, every action in fencing has a solution. So you're going to feint, you're going to doublé around my counter 6, so we're right back where we started. I'm going to go for a 4, and you're going to do a disengage. You can try that with me now and see if that works for you. So you feint to here, make a doublé around my circle, make a disengage under my lateral, and hit. Again, you feint here, you make a doublé around my circle, you make a disengage, and hit. So that's called a doublé disengage for obvious reasons. Feint, doublé, disengage. Feint, doublé, disengage. Feint, doublé, disengage. Now with your dummy, or your pad, or the air, if that's what you've got, we'll try that. We're going to do an advance, let me rephrase that. We're going to do an advance doublé, and then disengage with the lunge. It's kind of like the 1-2 we did before. We're going to do advance doublé, make a circle, and then a disengage after that. If you can, see if you can imagine your opponent in front of you. Advance doublé, and a disengage, and recover. Advance doublé, disengage. 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 Two more. Advance doublé, disengage. Advance doublé, disengage. You will notice how much, of course, as you know, repetition is key to all of this. I think I mentioned to you at one point this great book, Iron and Silk, that has a wushu champion in China whose method was basically you just repeat everything until you can't repeat it anymore. He was famous for doing 1,000 spear thrusts, which involved stabbing and twisting. And so by the end, his hands were blistered, but he was so self-disciplined, he just did it over and over and over. And that's why he was the best. I'm going to stop this video and resume in a second on the second video.